Welcome to the Stewardship Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Tamayo, business growth strategist, fractional CMO, wife, homeschooling mom of three, and someone who spent years helping entrepreneurs build systems that create growth without sacrificing what matters most. If you're a coach, consultant, service provider, creator, or entrepreneur who's tired of feeling like your business owns you instead of the other way around, you're in the right place. This podcast exists for people who want to build a business they can steward, not one that owns them. Before we jump into today's conversation, I want to share a little bit about why this idea of stewardship matters so much to me. Years ago, I was working in the corporate world when my husband and I welcomed our first child into the world. Like many parents, I found myself facing a difficult question. How could I be present for my daughter without sacrificing our family's financial stability? I love my career, but I also felt a deep desire to be more present during those early years. I didn't want to look back one day wondering where the time had gone. The problem was simple. If I stopped working, our income stopped too. So instead of accepting that as the only option, I started looking for another way. I invested in mentors. I invested in coaching. I invested in learning skills I didn't yet have. And honestly, at the time, some of those investments felt scary. We didn't have unlimited resources, but I believe there had to be a way to create both impact and freedom. Looking back now, those investments became some of the highest return decisions I've ever made. What started as a desire to be present with one child eventually grew into a business that allows us to homeschool our three children, serve incredible clients around the world, and even gave us the opportunity to retire my husband from his corporate career in my second year of business. And that's one of the reasons I care so deeply about stewardship, because building a business was never just about making more money. It was about creating a life aligned with our values, our faith, our family, and the opportunities God entrusted to us. And that's exactly what I want this podcast to help you do too. Each week, we'll talk about business growth, client acquisition, marketing, systems, leadership lessons I'm learning along the way, faith, family, and what it really looks like to build something meaningful without losing yourself in the process. Because I don't believe success is just about revenue. I believe success is about stewarding your gifts, your opportunities, your relationships, your influence, and your time well. And as we're recording this, we're about halfway through the year, which makes today's conversation especially important because there's one question I've been asking myself recently, and I want to ask it to you too. Did you build the systems capable of achieving the goals you set for yourself 6 months ago? Not did you set the goals, not did you work hard, not did you stay busy. Did you build the systems? Because that question has the power to completely change how you approach the next 6 months of your business. Let's dive in. 6 months ago, you set goals for this year, maybe revenue goals, maybe client goals, growth goals, and maybe I love this one, freedom goals. And now we're here somewhere in the middle of the year in 2026, and it's time for an honest moment of reflection. Not shame, not comparison, not self criticism. This is just honesty. Because here's what I've learned from working with coaches, consultants, service providers, and experts across so many different industries. Goals are the easy part. Most of us are really good at writing down what we want. The harder question, the one that actually determines whether we get there, is this. Did you build the systems that create predictable sales? Because here's the truth that I come back to again and again. Goals don't create growth. Systems do. I want to say it again. Goals don't create growth, systems do. Now, I want you to sit with that for a second. Goals don't create growth, systems do. I watch so many gifted, talented, hardworking business owners spend the entire first half of a year chasing more, knowing for themselves that they need more content, more marketing tactics, more launches, more courses, more visibilities, and more followers, and still end up wondering why the revenue isn't matching the effort. And the answer almost always comes back to the same thing. Visibility alone doesn't create predictable sales. The businesses that scale aren't necessarily the ones doing the most. They're the ones consistently executing the specific activities that produce revenue. And there's a big difference between being busy and being effective. And as stewards of the businesses and opportunities we've been given, I think it's our responsibility to know the difference. So let me give you a practical framework to evaluate where you actually stand right now. When I look at the businesses that are winning, really winning with sustainable, predictable revenue, they all have a repeatable process for doing four things: staying top of mind, creating meaningful conversations, meaningful offers, making offers, and deepening relationships. They aren't waiting for leads to magically appear, they're actively cultivating them. So, here are the six key impact areas I want you to evaluate as you look honestly at the first half of your year. Grab a notebook if you have one nearby, because I want you to actually score yourself on this. Impact area one: lead generation. So the first question is, do you have a predictable system for meeting new people each week? And I want to be specific here. I'm not asking if you're posting content. I'm asking if you're creating actual conversations. There's a difference between broadcasting and connecting. Content can build awareness, but conversations build relationships, and relationships build businesses. If you don't have a reliable, repeatable way to meet qualified new people every single week, not occasionally, not when you feel like it, but every week, that's your first gap. Impact area two: lead nurture. So the next question here is that, are you consistently following up with the people who have already shown interest in what you do? Because here's something I see constantly: valuable relationships fall through the cracks, not because business owners don't care, but because there's no system, no process, no intentional follow up strategy. Someone expresses interest, and then life happens, and then 3 months go by. That warm conversation has gone cold. Now, if you're honest with yourself right now, how many opportunities are sitting in your inbox, your DMs, your note app, waiting for a follow up that you haven't sent? Impact area three: sales conversation. Ask yourself, are you regularly making offers, not hoping people buy and not waiting for the perfect timing? Not posting and praying that somebody or someone would buy, but actually proactively and intentionally inviting qualified people to take the next step with you. So this one is so important, and I think it's one of the areas where I see even, the most talented people struggle. We spend so much time creating content, building authority, showing up consistently in social media, and then we hesitate at the moment of the offer. As stewards of our business, we have to remember an offer is an invitation. It's not pressure. It's an opportunity to help someone move forward. And when we hold back the offer, we're actually holding back the transformation they came to us for. So make the offer regularly, consistently, and with confidence. Impact area four: client retention. Are your current clients receiving enough value, support, and attention to stay longer and buy again? This is, I think, one of the most overlooked revenue opportunities in any business. We work so hard to acquire new clients, and then sometimes, we take for granted the clients we already have. But the best clients you'll ever get are the ones already working with you. They know you, they trust you, they've experienced your results firsthand. So if you're not intentionally deepening those relationships and creating reasons for them to continue and expand, you're leaving both revenue and impact on the table. Impact area 5, referrals and advocacy. So ask yourself, have you intentionally activated your happiest clients, referral partners, and champions or super connectors of your brand? Are you hoping referrals happen organically? So here's the truth about referrals, they don't just happen. The best referral relationships are cultivated. They are built through consistent value, genuine appreciation, and is important, actually asking. Most business owners have a circle of people who would happily refer them business. They just haven't asked, or they haven't made it easy, or they haven't stayed in close enough relationship to stay top of mind when an opportunity arises. So don't leave your referral network on the table. Impact area 6 is your relationship capital. This is the one I think matters most of all, and the one I want to spend more time on today is your relationship capital. Is your network growing stronger every month? Not necessarily bigger, stronger. Because every business breakthrough I have ever witnessed, even in my business, every launch that exceeded expectations, every revenue milestones, every life-changing client win has been built on a foundation of relationships. The strongest businesses don't just build audiences, they build relationship assets. And this is where I want to introduce you to something that was taught to me by my mentor, and and it's called Dream 1000. Your Dream 1000 isn't a list of strangers. It's the people already connected to your business, the people who already know you, already like you, trust you, and at least to some degree. You know, we're talking about your current clients, your past clients, your warm leads, your engaged followers, your referral partners, industry peers, and your strategic relationships. These are the people most likely to help you generate your next sale, your next referral, your next opportunity, or your next breakthrough. And here's the question I want you to sit with. Are you consistently staying connected to them? Because most business owners don't have a lead problem, they have an activation problem. They're sitting on opportunities they haven't followed up on, relationships they haven't nurtured, conversations they haven't reopened, referrals they haven't requested, past clients they haven't re-engaged. And I've seen this so many times. A business owner comes to me convinced they need more leads, more followers, and more visibility online. And when we actually sit down and look at their existing network, there's a gold mine sitting right there, untouched. I want to share a few examples from clients I've had the privilege of working with. One client generated over 100,000 six-figure from a single virtual event launch, not just because of the marketing efforts we did, but because she paired that marketing with a strategic relationship selling system. She knew her people, she stayed connected with them, and when the launch opened, her network was warm, ready, and excited. Another client turned a conversion gap into nearly $40,000 in revenue, and not by posting more content, but by improving her follow up and her customer journey systems. She stopped letting relationships fall through the cracks, and the revenue followed. And another client created $20,000 in pre launch sales from a brand new offer, not by reaching cold audiences, but by activating the relationships he already had before. He even tried to find new ones. So you see, the pattern is consistent. Your next level is often hiding inside the relationships you already have, inside the conversations you haven't started, inside the follow ups you haven't sent, inside the Dream 1000 you haven't fully built. So let me give you something practical today. A mid-year audit you can do right now or today or this week to get an honest look at where your relationship capital actually stands. And I want you to ask yourself these 5 questions. First, how many current clients have I personally connected with this month? This is not through a mass email, not through a group post, but a personal connection. Second, how many past clients have I reactivated this year? These are the people you have worked with before and can work with you again. Have you reached back out? Third, how many warm leads are waiting for a follow up from me? Be honest, we all have them. Fourth, how many referral partners have I intentionally thanked or supported recently? Gratitude is a relationship strategy, and it's also just the right thing to do here. And fifth, how many people are actively moving through my relationship pipeline right now? Now, if those questions make you a little bit uncomfortable, I want to tell you something. That discomfort is good. Awareness creates opportunity. You can't fix what you can't see. And the moment you see clearly where the gaps are, you have the power to do something about it. Now, I want to talk about what actually fills those gaps. Because knowing the problem is one thing, building the habit is another. In my work, I use something that my mentor taught me, the miracle hour. And it's built around 7 core activities, daily, consistent, simple activities that keep your relationships moving forward. And here they are. 1, creating new conversations. So every day you should be initiating new contact with someone in your network or just outside it. 2, you're nurturing existing relationships. Now check in, add value, be present with the people already in your world. Third, following up consistently. So if someone expressed interest and you haven't followed up, today is the day. Fourth, making offers. Every single day, there should be some version of an invitation going out from you. No pressure, just an invitation. Fifth, activating referrals. Ask your happy clients, thank your referral partners, and make it easy for people to send opportunities your way. Sixth, and the last, is building visibility through meaningful engagement. So this is not just broadcasting content. It's genuinely engaging, commenting, responding, and showing up as a real human being. Oh, and there's one last more, which is reconnecting with dormant relationships. Someone you used to be close to that you've lost touch with. Past client, a former colleague, a warm lead that went quiet, reach back out. Individually, none of these activities feel extraordinary, but compounded over weeks and months, they become transformational. And that's what stewardship looks like in your business. It's not a grand gesture, it's faithful, consistent, intentional action day after day with the relationships and opportunities you've been given. And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought. The next 6 months of your business will not be determined by the goals written in your planner. They'll be determined by the systems you consistently execute and the relationships you intentionally steward. So this week, don't focus on doing more. Focus on doing what matters. Review the 6 impact areas I just shared in this podcast today. Identify your biggest bottleneck and then Take one action to strengthen a relationship that already exists in your world. Send a follow up, reconnect with the past client, thank your referral partners, start the conversation because one conversation can create a client, and one client can create a referral, and one referral can change the trajectory of an entire year. And that's how stewardship works. Small, faithful actions repeated consistently over time. Now, if this episode challenged you or gave you something to think about, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment on this week's podcast and let me know what is the one system or relationship you need to steward more intentionally during the second half of this year, 2026. Now, if you're not already subscribed, join me on Substack where I share weekly reflections, business growth insights, client acquisition strategies, stewardship lessons, and behind the scenes learnings from building a business while raising a family and pursuing a life aligned with purpose. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next week, remember, build a business you can steward, not one that owns you. I'll see you in the next episode.